All good. All good. Good thing it's a 4-game slate, right, Adam?
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. Not too much to talk about. Let me get this link popping back up.
You're good to go now.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get the link, but all right. Whatever. Anyway, we're back. Sorry about that. That wasn't Adam's fault, believe it or not. That was not Adam's fault. Who would have thought?
Wish these assholes I work with would get working computers.
Yeah, there you go.
I deserve that.
Anyway, for those of you that missed it, Howard is out. By the way, I love to do it. We got some listeners that just pop into the new one and just click the thumbs up button, which is pretty cool. Like before anything happens, it's kind of like second nature, which we appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up for us and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the videos are coming out. Anyway, Adam, Howard out. Thomas Bryant starting. That's about where we got cut off. Pete says Thomas Bryant broke the stream. Definitely possible. Let's move on. Before we do, though, because we just got held up a bit, just quickly break down how you view the front court.
I assume Thomas Bryant plays around 18 minutes and matches Marcin Gortat. I think the rest of the 5 minutes hopefully go to Markieff Morris and Jeff Green. There is some risk that Jason Smith screws up everything because Scott Brooks does whatever Scott Brooks does. But for DFS purposes, I'm going to hope that it becomes Morris and Green and that they each play 28 to 32 minutes a piece. Kelly Oubre, I think, is in line for 26 to 28 minutes, assuming that they play small here. So Howard being out, I think, just does boost basically everyone on Washington.
Yeah, it certainly does, including Wall, including Beal. Ryan Kinger says, "Why does Adam look like that?" I said the same thing, man. He said he was sick. He said he's sick. You're sick, feeling a little sick, right? A little tired, a little sick.
Yeah, not feeling great.
Well, you know what? At least you don't have to write 2 13-plus game slates in the next couple of days. You get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I'll be all right while you're doing all that.
Clippers side of the ball. We don't have info yet on Gallo, but it's tough because it's an illness, but he was sick. It is a back-to-back, so it's not unrealistic that he sits out a second day.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it doesn't change a whole lot for me. If he's in, obviously, I think he's a good play. If he's out, Tobias Harris becomes a better play because you see him slide down a position and he gets more rebounding opportunities. He gets more rebounds. And so that's good. But even if Gallo's in, you're still looking at probably 36 minutes for Harris, and he would still be a good play. Harrell is a good play regardless. So the nice thing is just that I don't think Gallinari affects a whole lot other than, small boosts for guys that we already were going to like.
Yeah. By the way, much love to everybody in the chat. We got the best viewers out there. Yeah, definitely love these guys. Bill Butler, all hail Lord Laffy, the TY whisperer. That's right, dude. TY did us good, got us back on track this week. We saw it yesterday though. Doc Rivers with the running pretty heavy 3-guard rotations. But at the same time, Adam, I have a little bit of trepidation in knowing exactly what's going to happen because Bev was in some foul trouble and we saw this. I'm not necessarily sure if he wasn't in foul trouble, what things would have looked like. I think Beverly also caught an early 4th foul in the early 3rd quarter too.
Yeah, I think that the rotation was a little bit, obviously different than we would expect if Beverly hadn't been in foul trouble. But I think that you can kind of account for that by the fact that Milos Teodosic played 10 minutes in the second half. He looked like he was on his way to not playing. So if you just kind of give those 10 minutes to Bev, you get him at about 30 minutes, which is where I'm projecting him today. Also, we'll have to pay attention to Avery Bradley news with it being the second half of a back-to-back. We don't really know what they're going to do with him. So that's something else, to pay attention to for sure.
Yeah. Another thing too, before we move on from this game, Kelly Oubre starting ahead of Markieff Morris.
Okay.
So Scott Brooks must think he's on the hook or something, and he's trying to get something moving here. Kelly Oubre, though, is 4,600 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's 5,000. What do you make of Kelly O?
I'm not really sure what to do with that because I already had him playing 26 to 28 minutes here off the bench, and playing more minutes alongside John Wall and Bradley Beal is not going to make him more effective. Like, it turns him into a defender who's going to spot up and, stand in the corner. So I think it drives his ownership up. I don't think it makes him any more productive than he already was going to be. He's played 125 minutes alongside Beal and Wall this season without Howard, has a 14.5% usage rate. He's averaged 0.9 points per minute. So, I mean, I think he's still a good play. It's just that I kind of doubt that. I think his ownership now probably goes up more than it should because he's starting.
I don't think that's the wrong take whatsoever. I agree with you entirely. Now, if he plays 33 minutes, which is possible, then you kind of mitigate the less fantasy or per minute production. But there's no question that's an issue. I mean, hell, you're talking about 0.7 fantasy points per minute with those guys out there. It does take away from a whole lot because he's one of the main guys off the bench. So I'm with you. I don't think you need to reach as heavy there. Clippers side, who are you targeting in this game? Let's say Gallo's out.
If Gallo's out, I love the spot for Harrell.
I
know you were higher on him than I was yesterday, and it came through for you. But this is just such a dream spot for him against what is going to be a small Washington team. It's a fast Washington team. They were the worst rebounding team in the NBA before Dwight Howard came back. He should just go absolutely nuts in whatever minutes he gets, off the bench. And because Washington is small, I don't expect Boban to get any minutes here. I expect it to just be Gortat and Harrell. So, I'm expecting 28 to 32 minutes from him. If Gallinari's out, we did see him play sometime at the 4 last night as well, although that was alongside Boban. So not sure that I would expect that tonight. But either way, 28 to 32 minutes in what should be a very, very productive spot on a permanent basis. I love him. I love Harris with or without Gallinari, but even more if Gallinari is out. And then, everyone else, it kind of just becomes like you can roll the dice with them in tournaments. Like Lou Williams has a great matchup here. He's going to shoot a bunch. He doesn't really get much of a boost without Gallinari because he's a high usage guy anyway, but it's still a great matchup for him. So Harris and Harrell will be the two that I'm most interested in. Oh, and Mike Scott. If Gallinari's out, you should see a ton of minutes for Mike Scott.
I mean, straight up, Harrell, just keep playing him. Just keep playing him on DraftKings and while his price stays in this mid 6K range. Like he's getting the minutes no matter what. Yesterday was a great up-tempo matchup, even though the Hawks play a traditional center for almost 48 minutes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doc is finally understanding what he has to offer, and we're seeing it game by game. This is he's been fantastic, and I'm just going to keep playing him until his salary reflects his production.
Yeah, like Boban got 10 minutes yesterday, and Harrell just stayed on the floor and played alongside him.
Yeah. Right. It doesn't even matter anymore. It just doesn't matter. He deserves the minutes. He's going to get the minutes. And if he's going to get minutes at the 4, oh man, then it's a wrap.
Those are some huge lineups. They had Scott, Harrell, and Boban on the floor at the same time.
I was looking through that this morning, and because it's funny, you start with 3 guards, and then you end up like it's very rare that you're like, all right, we're going to start a 3-guard lineup, and then throughout the game you've got Scott, Harrell, and Boban on the court at the same time together. Explain that.
Right. Yeah. So I do think Mike Scott becomes a really good value play if Gallinari's out.
So do I. And you're not paying much for him at all, right? I mean, Mike Scott is still dirt cheap. I'm not. The thing about Mike Scott is he's a high efficiency shooter usually. Not as much this year, but he has been in the past. You're not going to get a ton of attempts. I don't expect another 14 field goal attempts, but if you get around 28 minutes from him, you're going to be happy with that. At that price, you really don't need much. All right. Orlando, Toronto. Toronto, 6.5-point road favorites here, 219 total. The Raptors are going to be with Kawhi Leonard, potentially without Kyle Lowry. We still don't have that news yet, but I'd lean towards him playing. I know Nick Nurse downplayed his injury, but I don't really buy into the coach speak, so I'm still waiting on this. Fortunately, it locks at 7 o'clock, and it's the first game to tip off.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays, I think he's underpriced a little bit. Like at 7,700, it's a nice price tag on DraftKings, but he is productive when he plays alongside Kawhi. You see, obviously, a huge decrease in his usage rate. So I think he would just kind of be like a secondary play for me. If he's out, though, it obviously opens up a lot of stuff because we only have 33 minutes of Kawhi without Lowry on the floor this season, but I would expect that you see more ball handling and more facilitating from Kawhi to go along with his scoring. So it would make Kawhi just an even better play for me. But it obviously would open up minutes for Fred VanVleet and for DeLon Wright with CJ Miles and OG still out. You would be kind of in that same situation that they were in against the Bulls without Kawhi, where they they just don't have the bodies to really fill out the backcourt. So both of those guys would have to play a lot. Van Vliet would, I assume, be one of the highest owned players on the slate. He would, he'd be a good play, no question about it. But both of those guys would obviously step into bigger roles. Agreed.
Don't expect to see any limitations for Kawhi. They're on the first of a back-to-back. They're on the road. They come home. Or I think tomorrow might be on the road as well. Not sure. I think it is. So expect normal minutes here. Kyle Lowry, 7,700 on DraftKings, Adam. What's that do for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reasonable price tag. I still think that there are guys I prefer. Like, you can either get up to John Wall for $9K or Lillard at 9,700, but also D'Angelo Russell's in that same price range. Spencer Dinwiddie's even cheaper. And I also, I know you said you're expecting him to play. I'm leaning more towards him not playing.
Oh, yeah?
Just because, well, so for one, they had said that he was fine, and then now he's a game time decision, which is kind of weird. But on top of that, with them having the back-to-back, you assume Kawhi's not going to play tomorrow. And so it just would make sense to let Lowry sit today, play him tomorrow when Kawhi's out, instead of either forcing Lowry to play both games of a back-to-back or playing one of the games without either one.
No, yeah, I mean, that's reasonable. At the same time, I just don't know how injured he actually is, but he is a true game time decision from what we're seeing. So we'll have to wait on that. You also have Miles and OG Anunoby out, Adam.
Right. Yeah. So that if Lowry's out, that's why you kind of run into the same similar issue that you did in Chicago when Kawhi was out. You would have Kawhi playing his minutes at the 3 here, but with OG out, you don't have a backup 4, so that ends up being Kawhi. You end up getting Malachi Richardson most likely picking up the minutes at the 3 that Kawhi doesn't play, with Danny Green shifting down a little bit as well, and that opens up the minutes for DeLon Wright. You obviously would have Fred VanVleet running point for a lot of minutes without Lowry, and then you would have Lorenzo Brown filling in whatever Wright and VanVleet don't play.
Danilo Gallinari will play. Clippers are starting SGA, Bradley, Harris, Gallo, and Gortat.
But no Pat Beverly.
What's that?
So no Pat Beverly in the starting lineup.
No. Bradley, Harris, Gallo, Gortat with SGA at the point. Does this take some shine away from Harrell for you?
Not really. I mean, enough that, like, a little bit, but not really. It caps the ceiling on his minutes, I think. But I still expect him to be so efficient in the minutes that he's out there against this Washington front court that I'm not really concerned about it, especially on DraftKings.
Neither am I. I still plan on playing him. I don't really have much concern about this at all. So just wanted to circle back to that before we moved on. Does this game entice you, though, Toronto, Orlando? Are there any guys that stand out as great plays? Because on the Orlando side, a lot of these guys are I'd say at least very reasonably priced. They're underpriced. I mean, Vooch is producing monster numbers. He's an excellent offensive center. His facilitating has increased this year, which is very impressive. He's already triple-double. He came 1 assist shy of a triple-double last game out. I mean, we're seeing him produce in a bunch of different categories and not just points and rebounds. Evan Fournier's price is at 5,600 on DraftKings compared to FanDuel where he's 6,600. So you do have some guys that are, discounted. Aaron Gordon is 6,900. He's fallen below 7K after being 7,600 last game. But it's not an easy matchup with Kawhi in, with Danny Green in. I don't know what Lowry's situation is, but it's kind of that limbo where it's, good prices, tough matchup. Where are you at here?
A lot here will come down to ownership for me, how our final ownership projections look, because I like Vucevic, but there's a couple of centers in Whiteside and Nurkic that I absolutely love for a little bit less. And those are the guys that I would like to prioritize unless I think that one of them is going to be way higher owned than Vucevic, in which case, obviously you can make that pivot in tournaments. Fournier, I don't love the spot. I do like the price on DraftKings. So fine. Jonathan Isaac, we haven't seen an Orlando starting lineup yet, right?
No.
Okay. Jonathan Isaac's the one that I'm really keeping an eye on. He played 24 minutes last game.
Hey, there is a Magic lineup. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I feel like you want
that that's right. Yep, I'm sorry. Augustine, Fournier, Wundu, Gordon, and Vooch. My fault.
Okay, so then I'm not as interested in Isaac. He played 24 minutes off the bench last game, and I think that it's a good sign that he played that many minutes and that he, is obviously getting ramped up coming back from his injury. The concern that I have is that Aaron Gordon played about 29 and a half minutes in that game. Isaac played a bunch of minutes in Gordon's place, and then he played a few minutes alongside of him. I'm not comfortable projecting Gordon to play 30 minutes a night. I don't think that is something that happens going forward. So you end up, if you're to get Isaac back to that 24 minutes, you end up needing him to take like a bunch of minutes from Jonathan Simmons or Terrence Ross, as long as he's not starting and Iwundu's in the rotation. So I don't have as much interest in Isaac as I would have if he had rejoined the starting lineup.
Yeah. Me neither. Also, I think just one last thing on the Clippers, not to bounce back and forth. With Bradley to the bench, I think this hurts SGA too. I had mentioned before that when he moved into the starting lineup, you didn't have Beverly taking away, or you didn't have the whole backup point guard rotation. It wasn't in flux anymore. And now Beverly, I expect to eat into SJ's minutes. I'm not saying that he's not still going to get decent run, but I don't see. I see like 28 minutes for Gilgeous-Alexander today.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. Like earlier in the season, we saw them basically splitting the point guard minutes and not playing alongside each other. The hope was that they would continue playing alongside each other once Bradley came back, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
Right. They might for stints, which is why I'm giving him 28. But yeah, there was foul trouble yesterday, and he only played 28. So we might see him down to 24 or 25 again, honestly.
Right. I think that it'll obviously be hard to nail down a specific minutes projection for him, but I think that just kind of generally saying that the fact that he's priced now for the minutes he had been playing alongside Beverly with Bradley out, he's naturally a little bit overpriced.
All right, finish out this Toronto-Orlando game. Top plays in this one. We'll move on.
Really Kawhi for me as number one. If Lowry's out, obviously you get Van Vliet as well. Fournier is okay as a secondary option. So is Vooch.
All right, that's where I'm at as well. Kawhi, Vooch, and Fournier just based on salary. It's not that I love them. I actually think they're pretty difficult matchups, but volume alone should hopefully get them there. Plus, in this next game, Adam, Miami and Brooklyn, Heat are 3.5-point favorites. Brooklyn's been hanging around this year. 216 total. Shouldn't be too high scoring, but Whiteside's only $300 less than Vooch on DraftKings, and he's $900 less than Vooch on FanDuel. Josh and I had this discussion about James Johnson being back in the rotation, but I'm not as concerned as he is, and not to say that he's even that concerned. Oh, Fred VanVleet will start if Kyle Lowry is ruled out. In my experience, that means that he's not going to play. Just saying.
Yeah, normally when they name temporary starters, it's kind of a done deal.
Right. I'm not too worried about Whiteside's minutes, though, because I think if anything, you'll see Adebayo and Olynyk lose the minutes here. Whiteside last game in that blowout was on pace to play much more than he did. He played 27 minutes in 3 quarters. Even if James Johnson ramps up to like 20 minutes, I still expect in a close game Whiteside, if there's no foul trouble, if it's not a blowout, I still expect 32 minutes from Whiteside. So I'm not super concerned about this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Almost 17 first half minutes in that game against the Lakers. You saw James Johnson subbing in for either Winslow or Richardson. It was still Bam and Olynyk backing up Whiteside. Olynyk in the first half, Bam in the second half. So I don't know which of them will get those backup minutes, but I expect that James Johnson won't have much of an impact on Whiteside. I'm still projecting him for about 32 minutes here, and I absolutely love him. It's nice that we haven't seen, even going back to last year, we haven't seen a decrease in his usage or his production without Dragic on the floor. Sometimes when you have centers that don't really create for themselves, they take a step back when they don't have their starting point guard out there. But that hasn't been the case with Whiteside. We have actually an increase in usage up to 22.5% without Dragic on the floor this season, averaging almost 1.5 fantasy points per minute. This Brooklyn team's in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounds allowed and total rebounds allowed, despite being one of the slower teams in the NBA. So that just goes to show how inefficient they've been on the boards. And we know that Whiteside is one of the better offensive rebounders in basketball. So I just think it's a great matchup for Whiteside. Absolutely love him here. I'm not concerned about the minutes at all.
Yeah. I'm going to have quite a bit of Whiteside. I don't know how, I don't know at this price how you don't get Whiteside into some lineups. You want to fade him in tournaments. I get that. My expectations are that he'll be pretty high owned, but it's not a spot where I see James Johnson taking minutes away from him. That's all. Maybe when he's having bad games, I could definitely see that. but not right now. Anything else for Miami for you, being that we know Goran Dragic is out. He's expected to miss at least 3 games. Dwayne Wade will play. Everyone talking about this baby narrative. I'll let you guys rock that one. And then you have guys like Magruder who are cheap. 4,800. That used to be 64 on DraftKings like a week ago. He's 4,800. He's 4,900 on FanDuel. Winslow's 4,500 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's also pretty cheap, 5K. And then you got Richardson, who's handling some point guard responsibilities. So you also, of course, have Tyler Johnson out. So what do you see breaking down here? Again, you wrote the article. I want that in-depth analysis on this.
Yeah, I think that with Dragic and Johnson being out, you're going to see more ball handling responsibilities for a number of these Miami players. When Dragic has been out this season, you've seen it kind of spread out between Josh Richardson, Rodney Magruder, Justice Winslow, all with assist percentages that are elevated when Dragic isn't on the floor. Winslow's at 22.7% without him. Magruder's at 21.3%. Richardson's at 19.5%. And that's without accounting for Tyler Johnson. So the fact that Dwayne Wade's back and Tyler Johnson's out, I think kind of comes out in the wash, because obviously Wade's going to have the ball in his hands some, but in those minutes without Dragic that we're basing these numbers off of for earlier in the season, Tyler Johnson was out there for quite a bit of it. So I expect that you see a bump for all of those guys, and their prices are just now on their way back down from when Dragic was out before. So you're getting these guys at discounts. Justice Winslow only played 25 minutes in their last game, but that was a game that was closed by the second unit for the most part. So he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. I think he plays up around 30, 32 minutes here. I think that you see as many minutes as possible for Josh Richardson, up in probably the 38-minute range. I think that you see Magruder in that same range as well. So even though it doesn't feel good playing guys like Winslow and Magruder, I just think that their price tags have come down enough to where they are really, really strong value plays given the role that they're going to be forced into tonight.
Yeah, me too. I don't like playing Magruder normally, but it's one of these instances where I think they're kind of forced into it. But hey, by the way, you're talking about value here, and I know we just kind of glossed over it because we're trying to make good time after some complications. But if Fred VanVleet is starting for Lowry, I mean, he becomes a very good play.
Yeah, no question.
He's only played 19 minutes with Kawhi on and Lowry off this season. He's got a 24.5% usage rate, 0.78 fantasy points per minute. But I don't make much of that, Adam. The 19 minutes doesn't give us much insight at all.
Yeah, not at all. And I mean, we saw him be productive before with DeMar DeRozan, so I'm not too concerned about it.
Neither am I. Plus, Kawhi Leonard, I talk about this a lot. He doesn't touch the ball that much. He just does so much when he does touch the ball, and he's the highest efficiency player in the league. So he actually doesn't take that much away from his teammates in terms of ball handling responsibilities. Think of it that way.
If you real quick, if you want to basically turn Kawhi into DeMar DeRozan so that we have a bigger sample size on VanVleet, VanVleet played 270 minutes alongside DeRozan without Lowry last season. 15% usage, but a 19.6% assist percentage, averaged 0.83 DraftKings points per minute. You're going to end up getting him, I would think, for 30 plus minutes here. So he just still ends up being a good value.
I agree. All right, we'll go to Brooklyn, but first let's prioritize our Miami players here. 20 Rick asks, how many minutes do you see for Wayne Ellington? Well, Dwayne Wade is back, but Dragic is out and Tyler Johnson is out. So it's a difficult one because you're going to see Richardson playing a lot at the point. I don't know. I'd probably put him around 30. What about you, Adam?
I have Ellington at 36.
36.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. I have him a bit lower than that just because I expect Wade to play around 28. So
yeah, I have Wade at 22.
At 20. Okay, there's our discrepancy. Almost that's an identical 6-minute gap right there. So,
I basically have Wade playing 10 minutes of point guard, 12 minutes at the 2, replacing Magruder, and then I have Ellington and Winslow splitting minutes at the 3, Winslow and either Olynyk or Derek Jones Jr. splitting their minutes at the 4, and then center being Whiteside and either Bam or Olynyk.
Okay, yeah, because most minutes open up at the point. That's why I could see Wade getting minutes at the point over Ellington, which is why I bring him down 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah. But anyway, it's enough minutes to still get some run. and put some points up. Prioritize these Miami players for me. I'm assuming Whiteside's at the top of this one.
Yeah, Whiteside number one. If I have the money, Josh Richardson. And then Winslow, Magruder, Ellington.
Yep, me too, in exactly that order. Actually, I put Magruder over Winslow just for ownership. Well, I guess they'll both probably be relatively unpopular. What do you have for Brooklyn here?
I think that both of the guards are really interesting. With Caris LeVert out, we've seen it open up more minutes for D'Angelo Russell. He played almost 35 minutes last game, which was really nice to see. Going back to last season, without LeVert or Jeremy Lin on the floor, Russell has a 29.1% usage rate. He has a 36% assist percentage. That combined with the increased minutes, I think makes him a strong option here. Obviously, he can be an inefficient shooter, so there is still downside for him, but there's really no question, I don't think, that he has a 50-point ceiling here. And then Spencer Dinwiddie was someone that I always want to overlook because he's never been that productive from a fantasy perspective, but without Caris LeVert on the floor this season, he's got a 27% usage rate. He's also got a 37% assist percentage. And and with the rotation that they're running right now, he's playing some minutes alongside Russell, but he's also playing a bunch of his time without Russell on the floor. So I think that he's still in line for pretty productive minutes here. I haven't projected for 28 minutes, but at only $5,500 on DraftKings, I think he actually comes out as a really good play as well.
Yeah, and look at his per minute production with LeVert off and playing alongside Russell. Like, it's actually good. So I don't have any concerns whatsoever in that respect. I think Dinwiddie's a perfectly fine play. You're getting good numbers from him, and he's playing enough, not a ton, but he's playing. How many minutes per game is he playing alongside Russell lately?
It's, I think, been like 8-ish.
8. Yeah, I thought it was a little higher, but yeah, you could be right. He's still getting plenty of run though, and that's what matters. Jared Allen's another guy. Not the greatest matchup, but he's still priced pretty cheap, and he has the ceiling. On a slate like this with only 4 games, I don't have any issues considering somebody like Jared Allen just based off of his depressed salary. Anyone else in this game for you?
No, that's it for me. I agree with you on Allen's price. I just can't get there because center's so not even deep. It's just that I like Whiteside, Nurkic, and Vucevic so much.
I feel like we say this every night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely true. Knicks are starting Mudiay, Hardaway, Hezonja, Vonleh, and Cantor, Adam.
Huh.
How about that?
That's
and
interesting.
It's a perfect segue into this final game. We got about 9 minutes here. Knicks at home against the Portland Trailblazers at Madison Square Garden. Portland 7-point road favorites, 220.5 total. So you heard that. You heard me correct. Knicks will start Mudiay, Hardaway, Hezonja, Vonleh, and Cantor.
Yes, it's really interesting. So I still don't have any confidence in projecting minutes for the Knicks because they're kind of a second version of the Hawks where they're just throwing guys out there kind of at whim. But I do feel a little bit better because they're actually starting some of their better players instead of trying to guess at what point Mitchell Robinson picks up his 3rd foul and Cantor comes in. We know that Cantor's starting the game.
5 fouls in 9 minutes last game.
Yeah, it was insane. So we know Cantor's starting. We can assume, like we saw him start earlier this year. He was playing 33, 34 minutes a night. I'm okay assuming that he plays around there again, especially in this matchup with Yusuf Nurkic. So that makes me really like Cantor. Noah Vonleh was playing up around 30 minutes a night when he was getting starts and then staying out of foul trouble. His price tag is plummeted. He's down to $3,900 on DraftKings. He suddenly becomes a really good value option as well. So both of those guys become really, really appealing to me. Mudiay, obviously there's a chance he outperforms his price tag, but I'm not as confident in him playing well. I haven't projected for 28 minutes right now. He did get 2 early fouls in that last game as well, so that's why his minutes were down. But I feel best about Vonleh, Cantor, and then obviously we know Tim Hardaway's minutes haven't really changed no matter what.
Yeah, I talked about that a lot this morning on the Process Show. Vonleh is really cheap. I mean, this is a guy who we would have been running out there heavy at 3,900. Just a couple weeks ago, Adam.
Right.
So
Mario Hezonja too. Like, I have no idea how many minutes Hezonja plays, but I just quickly, if you plug in 24 minutes, he comes out as a really good value as well.
Yeah, the slate's actually starting to open up right before our eyes.
Yeah, this actually just turned into a really appealing game stack game to me.
It did. Portland's a good defense, but again, you're getting like, okay, here for example, let's do a little comparison here. Toronto's very good defense. Portland's a good defense. I still give Toronto the edge. With Orlando, you're seeing a discount on a few guys, no question. Tough matchup. There's a discount, but they're still not dirt cheap. With the Knicks, not the greatest matchup, but they are dirt cheap.
Right.
And that kind of gives them a slight edge here. Now, like you said, Hazonia's minutes, they're in question. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, Vonleh is very cheap. If he's not in foul trouble, this is a guy who can easily produce, 1.3, 1.4 fantasy points per minute if he gets I'll say 1.2. I think that's fair in a good game if he's out there. And his Cantor is 6,300 on DraftKings, which is absurd. He's 65 on FanDuel, and he's slotted into the starting lineup. So this is very interesting. By the way, I don't know if it just loaded wrong, but actually, no, I'd have to go back and change the dates on here. I'm trying to run to see if this lineup has played any minutes together, this exact lineup. I'm sure they have, but Adam, what do you think about what I'm saying there? This is both are tough matchups, Orlando and New York, but these guys are all way cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. The risk you're taking is, Orlando, we talked about them running kind of a flatter rotation where their starters are playing 30 to 32 minutes instead of 34 to 36. The Knicks, there's a very real chance that you still just get everyone playing meaningless minutes here, like 24 minutes or something. That's a risk, but the price tag factors that in because of how the rotations have been going lately. And there also is a chance that these guys actually play starters minutes, in which case they all become the best values on the slate, really. So especially with this news coming out late and it being something that, obviously people will adjust their lineups accordingly, but it's not like this news broke at noon and every article written today talked about how great values the Knicks were and everything. You kind of just end up with them naturally being a little bit underowned as well.
Right. By the way, this specific 5 players have not played any minutes together as a 5-man unit this season. That's kind of interesting. And Cantor, Hazonia, Vonleh, and Hardaway have played 5 minutes together. So we don't have much on this specific lineup.
Yeah, you get up if you look at Cantor, Hardaway, Vonleh, you get up to 69 minutes. 28% usage for Hardaway, 23 for Cantor. 8 for Vonleh.
What about per minute production?
1.18 for Cantor, 1.13 for Hardaway, 0.56 for Noah Vonleh.
Okay, so kind of where they're at on the season.
Well, except for Vonleh, yeah.
Yeah, the first two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have a good amount of Vonleh.
Yeah, I mean, he's just too cheap, and it's a small sample.
It's really all it comes down to. He's just cheap. I'm not too worried about that. I would have liked to have seen if we had anything significant, but it is interesting that they haven't played it all together. What do you make of Portland? Start with Dame. We'll work our way down, and we'll close this one out and hand it over to the live before lock boys.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lillard, in terms of median projections, is still overpriced. But on this slate, it's a little bit easier to get to him, for one, because all this stuff just opened up. But for two, because you don't have the issue of having, like a Giannis or an Anthony Davis priced $1,500 ahead of him that has, a monster ceiling. So Lillard, in terms of raw points, now has one of the highest ceilings on the slate. And in tournaments, I'm willing to overpay for that. So I think it's a nice matchup for him. I do like that Ntilikina is still not starting. Obviously, it's only one player on a bad defense, but Ntilikina is a good on-ball defender. And when he was starting at point, it did make me a little bit nervous to take guys like Lillard against this team. But that's obviously not the case now. So there's nothing here that concerns me about Lillard. He's facing a turnover-prone point guard as well in Moutier, so plenty of chances for him to possibly get his hands on a couple of steals here. So yeah, I like Lillard a lot. I like McCollum. Evan Turner is, I think, one of the better value plays on a point per dollar basis. I just don't really love the ceiling that he brings, but I think that you get about 30 minutes out of him, and he's done a good job this year of making up for his lack of scoring by picking up a bunch of assists when he's out there. So I think he's a decent option as well. Nurkic, my favorite player from Portland, though.
Nurkic, okay. I got Lillard first and then Nurkic. I'm gonna have some lineups with Whiteside, Cantor, Whiteside, Nurkic, you name it. I think those are the three guys there at the position that I really like quite a bit. Favorite value plays on the slate, Adam, now that we've got some news.
I mean Van Vliet if Lowry's out, Vonleh at 39. Yeah, Vonleh at 3,900, Hazonia at 3,400. Like it's just so hard to fail when you're $3,400.
What about Moutier?
Not really.
The tough thing about Moutier is that they still have so many different guards that can just get thrown into the mix and ruin your day.
Right. Like I'm not confident in the front court rotation. I'm even less confident in the backcourt rotation where
absolutely.
Like last game you had Trey Burke as the first guard off the bench, but like 3 or 4 games ago it looked like Trey Burke wasn't even in the rotation. You have Ntilikina still in there taking minutes from someone. You have, Damian Dotson taking minutes at like the 2 and the 3. It's Alonzo Trier if they are still playing him. Like there's just so many ways that can go sideways. I feel a little bit more confident in these front court guys.
Trier started at the 3 the other day.
Yeah, he played like 14 minutes.
I know. You could see a very realistic possibility that like all of those guys play around 23 minutes or something, and then you're just miserable.
Right.
Yeah. So stick with the guys that can give you the numbers. I also have no problem with Hardaway. Look, Adam, as long as he's giving me 30% usage each night and playing 36 plus minutes in close games, I'll have plenty of interest in him, especially when I'm running it back after playing a lot of Nurkic and Lillard.
Yeah, no question. I think that an issue I was having earlier was that I really liked Nurkic. I really liked Lillard. I liked McCollum, but I didn't like anyone on the Knicks, and I didn't really like the way that was setting up. But now with all these underpriced guys on the Knicks that at least have ceilings, even though they come with risk, it kind of just turns it into a spot where I can go pretty heavy on this game if I want to.
Absolutely. All right. That'll do it for us. We wish you guys good luck tonight. As always, we appreciate you. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and then we'll head out for Thanksgiving and then be back on Friday. Chris and Eddie bringing you up to lock. Hit that like button before you head out. Subscribe, notification bell, and don't forget, Deeper Dive promo code. If you head over to awesomeo.com, you click the Join Now button on the homepage, and you can sign up. Get a free week of premium content. All free, everything behind paywall. Have a great holiday. Well, no, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive.